Hey everybody, and welcome to my live video. It's Mental Health Awareness Week, and I would like to share some tips around how you can help yourselves and help other people in these challenging times. And also I just want to address something that I heard on the radio just now. Literally, I just turned it off. I won't mention the radio presenter. I think the words were clumsy rather than meant in any negative way, but it started me thinking about, there are probably a lot of people who will listen to that or probably feel the same way anyway. So it was a suicide awareness conversation, and they were talking about how you can help people who are suicidal or are talking about taking their own life or are feeling very low and flat. And a lot of us are facing new and different challenges at the moment, and some of you listening to this might feel that way at this particular time, or some of you who are listening to this might know somebody who is feeling that way and are unsure what to do. Now, the words the radio presenter used were, you might be having that conversation and you don't want to say the wrong thing, or heaven forbid you don't want to say the wrong thing, but it was in context like that. And often I hear people say, I wouldn't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. What happens if somebody I was talking to jumped off the building? And when I used to teach negotiation, some of the students were very fearful of this. Some of the students would be very fearful about asking the question of, are you going to commit suicide? Now, generally, if somebody is standing on the wrong side of the railings of a bridge, that's probably a good indicator that something's going on for them. If they're standing on a building, or if they're standing on the edge of a platform, but it's not always that obvious. So I'm just going to give you some ways that have worked for me over the many years of negotiation that still work when I'm talking to people in every day, whether it's friends, family, people in my team, my customers. These skills work, and you don't have to worry about saying that. I just want to say you don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing. So I have a little list here of 5 things that you might well find useful if you do know anybody who is suicidal or feeling particularly flat at the moment, or if you have somebody who's facing a challenge. These skills will work in exactly the same way. So first off, saying the wrong thing. You're unlikely to say the wrong thing. And by that I mean, if you came across somebody who was on a bridge and looked like they were about to jump off, other than saying jump, which seems like a real extreme, you're unlikely to say the wrong thing. Now, we know, I'm not a psychologist, I don't have any psychology degrees, I just work from experience and all the things that I know. I read a lot around this, so this is, just so you know, that comes with that caveat. This is just from my experience and from the things that I've read about. Now, if you interrupt the thought pattern, so if somebody's standing there and they look like they're about to jump, if you interrupt the thought pattern and engage them in a conversation, or make a sound that causes their attention to be transferred from what they're looking at, you stop the immediate behaviour. And that happens in everyday life as well. When you shout at your kids that are about to run out across the road, that immediate attention and that look to you, you've interrupted a thought pattern, a pattern of behaviour. And just by doing that, sometimes that helps somebody, and that can be as simple as sending a text message, or picking up the phone and saying, hey, are you okay? Or I haven't heard from you for a while, or last time we spoke you seemed to be a little bit flat. Just an engagement of any sort. So picking up the phone, sending a text message. I don't know about you, I'm finding I'm phoning and speaking to my family a lot more at the moment, which is something that I'd let slide over the last few years especially, because sometimes we get very caught up in our own lives. And I've enjoyed that time, and that's something that I'll keep going and doing, speaking to my family far more. The second one is about being non-judgmental. Now, this is a tricky one because we all have our own values and belief systems, and we will be judgmental whether we want to or not. And you'll have that little voice inside your head that will be telling you a variety of different things. Like, for example, it's not that bad, you need to shake yourself down, gosh, I know somebody else who's been through that. We'll make a judgment whether we want to or not, but it's about being aware of making that judgment and then not verbalising it. And over the years, I've talked to many people who judged me for what I did, for being a police officer, and I often say to people that when I would talk to people in a very tense situation, whether that was involving a family of somebody who had been kidnapped or somebody who wanted to take their own life because they couldn't see any way forward, often they wouldn't trust me because of who I was, not because of what I was. No, they wouldn't trust me because of what I was, not because of who I was, sorry. And so you have to approach that in a different way, and then you have to remove the judgment in the conversation. And I'm not saying any of these things are easy, but one of the ways that we're very good at judging is sharing our own opinion of perhaps we've known somebody else who's been in a similar situation, or sharing the opinion of, you know what, if you get a good night's sleep it'll probably seem a lot better in the morning, or sharing the opinion of if you would just talk then it's all going to be okay. So non-judgmental is the second one. Number 3, telling somebody what they should do. So often we're very good at telling somebody what they should and shouldn't do. You know, when somebody comes and asks you for advice or wants to talk about something, we'll give our advice anyway, whether they've asked it or not, and we'll say, well, you should do that, or you should do that, or you really must do that, or you need to do that. And immediately we're putting our opinion onto the conversation. Now, if somebody is in crisis, especially if they're facing something very challenging, then what happens is that they hear that should and need, and you know, it can almost be come across like a finger pointing exercise about telling somebody what they should and shouldn't do. So just be mindful of whether you use the language of you should or you shouldn't. The fourth thing is to be present in the conversation. Now, often in conversations we're not fully present. We're thinking about other things. We're looking at our watch, we feel the vibration of our phone, we're interrupted by an email, there's a knock on the door. Perhaps you can relate to this, that when you've been to see somebody you know and you're talking to them, or you've got something that you're trying to express and that you just want to get it out and you just want them to listen to you, they'll get a text message and they'll just look at it and that will distract them. Or they'll get a phone call and they'll look at it and go, I'm really sorry that this is important. And suddenly you've gone from being the person that was talking to not being important. So we all do it. It's the sign of modern times, but being present and just taking the time to be in a moment and in a space with somebody can really help them to talk through what's going on in their mind. And we also know that when you talk about things instead of internalising it and you get it out there, then people feel listened to, they feel valued. And as they start to talk about their thought processes, it can help them to see a different way. So the best analogy that I have ever heard somebody describe this as is, I don't know if you ever watched the films, Temple of Doom films, it's completely gone out of my head what his name is, Harrison Ford, those films. And in one of the scenes he's got the treasure and he's running away from the bad guys and he's running through a cave. And as he's running through the cave, he can hear the horses getting closer behind him. He's clutching on to the treasures that he's trying to rescue and trying to save. And suddenly he comes across a great big gap, a great big huge hole that he can't jump over or go round. And he's standing there thinking, well, I can hear them, they're going to catch me, and then they're going to take the treasure and they're going to either imprison me or they're going to kill me. And as he's standing there, there's a shift in the light in the cave. And as the light comes in, he sees directly in front of him like a bridge that he can just walk straight over. And that bridge has always been there, but it's taken the shift in the light for him to see the bridge. And often, when we're facing a challenge, because we can't see that light shift and we can't see the path that's in front of us, it takes us to verbalise it, to get it out, for somebody to ask us some directional questions, and then we can start to see that path that was always there. So just being present with somebody, not being distracted by something else, not being sidetracked by something. And then finally is to be brave. There are many conversations that we should have. There's the word should have, me telling you what you should do. But being brave is sometimes difficult. And we don't like to have confrontation. Some people are okay at it. I'm not great at it. I have to work on it. I have to plan my conversation. I have to get ready for it. And often we build ourselves up into that conversation, and we don't state the obvious. A great mentor of mine, who's now a great friend of mine, has always said to me, say what you see. Say what you see in somebody. So if you notice somebody is withdrawing, say it. If you notice somebody hasn't been in contact with you for a while, say it. If you notice that their body language when you FaceTime somebody is completely different from how it normally would be, just say it. Because in doing so, you're not making any judgment, you're just observing and making a comment about what looks like is going on for them in their life. And it might just be that that's all that they need. It might just be that one comment of, hey, you don't look so great today. You look, you're a bit more hunched up than you normally are. Or you haven't replied to any of my text messages for a long time, so just checking you're okay. So 5 things there. Don't worry about saying the wrong thing. Watch how you judge people and the effect that can have on other people. Telling somebody what they should and they shouldn't do comes from your perspective, not from their perspective, and sometimes people just want you to listen. Be present. Probably one of the hardest things in this day and age is to just be quiet and be silent and just be there for somebody and just let them talk. And sometimes they don't even want to talk. Sometimes people just want somebody else in the space. I remember working with an amazing group called Hear Us in Croydon. All of the people that were in that group had mental health illness. Some had been suicidal. Some had tried to take their own life and been, and come through the other side, and were now helping other people. And I remember the leader of the group, when they first set it up, a lady called Jane, saying to me, sometimes people will phone me in a crisis and we'll spend some time on the phone. And then if they don't want to talk, or if they don't want to talk in the first place, I will just say, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to sit and be with you on the end of the phone. And I really resonated with that, because sometimes all you need is just to know somebody's there. Now, I'm not saying that works for everybody in all of the cases. I'm not saying any of this works for everybody in all of the cases. But I do find, when I have spoken to people in crisis, spoken to people who can't find a way forward or are really struggling with that challenge of, I don't know what the next step is and I can't see a way out of this. And perhaps some of you have been in that position more recently, when it's a struggle to get money in. Perhaps a relationship has broken up. Perhaps you've had some sort of crisis of your own in the last few weeks, the last few years, and found that actually you don't want anybody else's opinion. You don't want anybody to tell you that Aunt Mabel had the same thing and she got through it, so it's going to be okay. You just want somebody to recognise and understand the emotions that perhaps you're feeling at this time, and just to talk it through. So I hope you have found that useful. I've got a question here actually that says, can I explain how your coaching benefits people, please? So if I use the analogy again of finding the right pathway. So when I coach people, I help them to find the right pathway. I help people to build relationships through communication and building confidence in being able to speak to people. And I help managers manage teams. Oh, I'm just doing a live. That's okay. Just got somebody in the garden as I was just explaining that. I do know him, by the way. It's not somebody just walking through the garden who I've never met before. That really would be weird. So I believe that coaching benefits people because you help them to see a different way forward. And negotiation, I feel, is the same as coaching. When somebody is in crisis, it's harder for them to express how they're feeling and to move them forward. I hope that answers those questions. Joe, if you've got any other questions, just email me. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found that useful, and have a great day. And if any of you need to reach out, please do. I'm pretty much always available for people who really need a good chat or a good listening to. Okay, take care. Thanks very much.